We are at 7:03. I think it's a good time to begin. Once again, I wish you all a very good evening and warmly welcome all of you to the webinar. We're largely going to be speaking about, sort of mapping your pathway into the US and, sort of pursuing your admission into your dream university in the US. To give you a context, for us at upGrad, the accessibility, the affordability, the complete democratization of higher education is really personal to us. And we are working with some of the best universities in the world, one of which is the Northern Arizona University, which has been a front runner and a pioneer in some of the most breakthrough practices that we've been following at upGrad Abroad. We've tried to make sure that studying in the US or studying in Canada or studying anywhere in the world is sort of made more accessible to everybody sitting in every remote part of the world. And for any Indian student, we have made sure that with NAU, we try to bring down the cost to almost 1/3 of what it would have costed like if you were going directly for all 4 years. So with all of that said, I'm going to remind you that NAU has been one of the pioneer institutions in the US that is looking towards transformational practices for making sure higher education in the US is not just a dream anymore, regardless of your financial background, regardless of the uncertainty in which course you want to pick. So we've brought two amazing thought leaders to you. I'll introduce both of them. They're both from NAU. We've got Mr. Raghwinder Singh, who is the program manager for strategic initiatives at NAU. He sits on the main campus in the US. And we've got Mr. Pranav Sahni, who is the country rep for NAU in India. Sir, on behalf of everybody in this room, we'd like to welcome the two of you. And I look forward to a very purposeful and engaging discourse between us.
Great. Thank you so much, Praneeth. And thank you so much for the upGrad team here for this opportunity to connect with all the students and certainly share about this collaborative opportunity that NAU has with upGrad. And certainly, in these challenging times, being able to provide a pathway through technology of coming to the United States and getting your education started right there in India. I'm Ragh Singh. I'm the program manager here at NAU. About 15 years back, I started my own journey as an international student from India. And now, of course, having worked in admissions for many years, certainly now at Northern Arizona University, I'm excited to connect with all of you and share some of the reasons of what makes the US higher education system so unique and interesting and certainly experiential in terms of its learning aspect also. So thank you again, Praneeth, for having us here, and look forward to chatting with all the students today.
Absolutely. So the agenda for the day is that we have to sort of help these students understand what it means to pursue higher education in the US, what are some of the eligibility criteria that are supposed to be followed, and what is the US the best in the world for, as in what are some of the reasons in terms of how is it that fundamentally they are so much different than any other place in the world. So I'd start with that first. I think, Ragh, in a hyper-connected, hyper-competitive world where everything we're educating our future generations with is largely turning obsolete every 5 years or is being replaced, how does the US education system, which is largely looked at as the best that you can get in the world, how are we in the US future-proofing these future workforces? And what are the pedagogical differences that you feel a student has an access to in the US and nowhere else in the world?
Great. Thank you so much, Praneeth. And, very rightly said, I think one of the, aspects for the United States and particularly the higher education system, what has been so attractive to much of the world has been the fact that One, of course, it's a very much applied learning system. So whenever you're here in the classroom, again, it's not just about listening to those lectures and sort of putting down your thoughts in a long period of examination, but it's often, proving things. If you're a computer software engineer, it's building programs. Again, if you're in mechanical engineering, it's about building things, engineering things, and so on. So I think that's something that has attracted for international students from all over the world what a U.S. higher education means. And part of the reason why the U.S. higher education system sort of stands so ahead is the fact that, again, you're looking at an interdisciplinary sort of research model also in some ways. It's not just sort of limited to one particular area of education. If you're coming here to study communications or computer science, you really have an opportunity to sort of major or minor, or perhaps in some areas, even pursue a dual degree in two perhaps very different areas. In the past, we've had students who may have pursued their majors in engineering, perhaps even with a minor in music. And similarly, again, so bringing two different areas of education together and sort of looking at the angle and the perspective of what would make that perspective so different. And I think, data science is a really good example of that. Certainly there's a lot of interest for students, especially coming from India, South Asia, to study data science. And I think that's a great example of where you see the combination of fields like statistics and computer science sort of coming together and looking at data through many different ways, analyzing data, managing data, and so on. And I think those are just some examples of what makes the US higher education so cutting in its nature, is the fact that, it sort of brings these different disciplines, these different fields of education together, and provides the student that hands-on learning experiential opportunity, which sometimes is difficult to get in different parts of the world. But certainly here in the US, I think one of the things that our teachers or faculty sort of keep in mind is that if you're learning something, you have to do it. You have to be a part of that. You have to build it through project learning, in the classroom, through those internships, through those curricular practical trainings. And that sort of, proves the fact that now you have some knowledge in that area, and you can go on to certainly do great things as you go into the workforce also.
Got that. I think that does answer, a large part of why US is always looked at as a role model. And in fact, some of the best universities in the world are in the US, and so I'm sure rightly so. So Rag, how easy is it for somebody to study in the US? So we'll talk about two scenarios here, Mr. Sani and Mr. Singh. For somebody who's just freshly graduating out of high school, what does he or she need to do, and how much in advance do they need to equip themselves if they want to study in the US, which is one? And two, for somebody who's looking at masters in the US, what are they supposed to do, and how early are they supposed to sort of start working if they want to realize their US dreams?
Great. Thank you, Praneeth. So I'll get started, and then I'll perhaps ask my colleague Pranav to add in his perspective also. So I think one thing I always ask our students is the US certainly has a lot of options. Certainly, Northern Arizona University happens to be one of the many higher education institutions that students have when they look at US higher education system. But again, you're looking at public institutions, private institutions, two-year community colleges. Again, you're looking at different sizes, research institutions, and so on. So there's definitely, what I would say, a lot of different options for students to consider. And, certainly as an admission officer, but also, coming from a point of view of a counselor, I always encourage students to find that best fit. Now, in some cases, this could be Northern Arizona University. In some other cases, it might be a different institution, depending on the academic program that you're looking at. And I think that's where I sort of suggest for our students to look at. Again, you might be interested in a particular program, let's say astrophysics, or perhaps a field like informatics, or a field like anthropology. And not all institutions may have that particular academic program. Now, again, when you look at the overall US rankings, certainly, US News, Times Higher Education, they may only give you a certain picture in terms of the higher education institutions, giving you rankings for the overall higher education institution. But again, academic programs have their own sort of rankings, they have their own specializations, and that's where it's important to consider, okay, not just this university, but does this institution, this university, have my particular academic major? For students in India, if you're looking at undergraduate programs, I'd say perhaps even starting to consider around the 9th, 10th grade is not a bad idea. The more time you have, the more time you can focus on your own research, start preparing for some of those, test requirements. Certainly, most institutions here in the United States may ask for an English language proficiency test course. Some schools may ask you even for SAT. Although I will be frank, I think most schools now in the United States are going away from the SAT or ACT testing requirements. And that's certainly a welcome for, I would say, most in the higher education community. Similarly, I think at the master's level, if you're looking at graduate level programs, I would say perhaps as you start getting into your second year of undergraduate education, looking into your academic programs, what are the admission requirements? What kind of scholarship opportunities does your institution offer? Are there graduate assistantship opportunities? I think these are all questions to consider. And the earlier you begin your journey, perhaps 2 or 3 years early than when you want to get started, is always a good option. And that way you can consider what may be a good fit university for you. And I'll also ask my colleague Pranav to share his tips also on this.
Rag, you've pretty much answered everything. But yes, a couple of universities, if they're still asking for exams, for example, an English proficiency exam. So it's a good idea to have that exam about 6 to 8 months in advance, the results, I mean, so that you can post it to the university and then they can make a decision in time, and you can move forward with your visa processing and other applications. A unique thing which a lot of students are surprised to know is that the US does not always wait for the last, most of the universities don't wait for the last semester results or even your standard 12 results to come out. So they often assess you on the basis of your 9th, 10th, and 11th. And as soon as you're done with your boards by March, you have your I-20s in order, you can start applying within the 120-day limit. Similarly, for a graduate program, you can apply with your 6th or 7th semester mark sheets, and then you can submit it by the time you reach the college. So that gives you an advantage. Often we are under the perception that we have to wait for our final results and then apply, but that is not the case there. So an early application always helps, and an early application also gives you more access to funding opportunities in the form of scholarships or even graduate or research assistant opportunities within the department. Back to you, Praneeth.
So for a student who's moving out of school, Mr. Sani, let's assume he or she is graduating out of school in 2022, right? So supposedly he or she is applying for the fall intake, which is September 2020. When exactly do you think, applying for financial aid or applying to a university early would mean? Would it mean in November?
So Praneeth, the important thing firstly is to get an admission. You only get aid if you get admitted. So the earlier you apply, first point is to have an admission in hand. Only then you can reach out to a department and say that I would like to be considered for a particular funding. Or some universities, like for example, for us, we have the International Excellence Award, which is auto-assessed for students above a certain grade point average. So, but again, these are limited funds and we get applications from all around the world. We have students from over 84 countries. So that is a huge pool which we are distributing the finances to. So definitely an early application helps. The applications have, I think, started for next fall already.
Great, Mr. Sani. The next thing I want to jump to is, if there's a student who's graduating out of business cohort of a school, as in when they study commerce in grade 11 and 12, and similarly, if they've studied science in grade 11 and 12, what are some of the most emergent careers or emergent industries in the US economy to thrive in? As in, what are some of the most futuristic or forward-looking courses they may take up, which may not be very conventional, but according to your sense of the market, is the next best in the next 5 years?
Sure. So I think from the business side, one of the emerging fields we're seeing is certainly the information systems management. And that is certainly an option that Northern Arizona University also offers at the undergraduate level. And partly what we're seeing is sort of that, going back to the interdisciplinary education, certainly business education is very valued, but at the same time, we're looking at a lot of different organizations having some background on the computer systems side as well. And I think that's where sort of the combination of that background and knowledge through the information systems management program certainly helps our students to be future-proof as they're looking for opportunities, having both the business as well as the computer science perspective as well. When you look at engineering also, once again, you're looking at different fields. Informatics, one of our, particularly known program, gives you an opportunity to specialize in different areas. One particular area that NAU does exceptionally well is bioinformatics. So for example, we're here in the pandemic, we're looking at, what kind of scaling in terms of, let's say, COVID-19 right now is at, and what it could be in the next 6 months. These are certainly models that are developed by our bioinformatics specialists. And I think that's, again, an area where essentially you're looking at health as well as information technology sort of coming together and looking at these different models, these different charts in terms of predictions and so on, but also looking at other aspects such as genome modeling and so on. So I do feel that areas of bioinformatics, particularly in the fields of engineering, certainly has a lot of great interest. But then again, areas of cybersecurity. Certainly now we live in the age of technology. When we think about the challenges of the future, cybersecurity certainly remains a major one. And that's something that even major banks and corporations are considering. And once again, you're seeing sort of the combinations of information technology sort of joining hands with, finance. Finance technology is something that we have seen, again, huge development here in the United States. As things shut down, a lot of new companies, including some companies that were trading in cryptocurrency, certainly came up. And I think that was in some ways the emergence of the financial technology sector also. And once again, we're seeing here the United States, which is sort of a leader in itself when it comes to the finance industries with some of the major bankings and corporations and investment companies, but also the Silicon Valley sort of joining hands together, certainly a new emergence within the financial tech sector as well. And I think these are fields that NAU offers in terms of academic programs for students to be future-proof and certainly be prepared for those opportunities that are now showing up.
Right. I think that's very interesting. I think these unprecedented times call for us to shift our perspective and add a lot more depth to what sort of course are these students picking, and how is the relevance going to be in the next 3 or 4 years. So Rag, you rightly mentioned the fact that these students have to be very particular about the research, and maybe 2 or 3 years of homework prior to when they actually have to commence the degree has to be in place for them to pick up the right course. So with that being said, Rag, I just want to bring to the attention of these attendees that upGrad is now largely partnered with NAU to run the computer science and applied computer science program. The computer science program is ABET accredited, and it's a STEM degree. And so, Rag, can we discuss about, how is that STEM degree a lot relevant in the next 5 years? And why did we specifically choose these two options, applied computer science and computer science? And what are some of the most, some of the most imperative career progressions that will unfold with both of these degree programs?
Absolutely. So I think one aspect that we were looking at this was a lot of our students coming from South Asia, again, India, are certainly looking at experiential learning opportunities. And what the STEM program does offer to the international students in the United States is the opportunity to go on and work, have that sort of experiential knowledge and learning, here in the United States. And so those STEM programs actually offer our students up to 3 years of sort of work permit once they finish their undergraduate degree. And for those students who may want to go on and pursue a master's degree, they can go on and utilize another 3 years through a STEM particular program, the experiential learning opportunity. So I do think that for our students within the South Asian community, the experiential learning perspective is huge. But I think even from the future-proof perspective, thinking about, what kind of jobs are we going to have in the next 4 years, 10 years, and so on. We're looking at certainly technology playing an essential part, whether if it's self-driving cars, or we're looking at, sending technology to the moon, or launching more space tourism. And I think that's where we looked at these two particular programs, applied computer science as well as computer science, which had a lot of interest, but has a lot of opportunities in terms of developing your career. When we look at students coming to the United States, I think certainly education is one incentive, but they're also looking to develop a career, perhaps here in the US, perhaps in India or a different part of the world. And so looking at the kind of job markets, looking at kind of the trajectory in terms of the job openings in the next 10, 20, 30 years, these were a couple of the programs that we saw we had a lot of great interest in, not just from our international students, but also from our domestic students, our School of Informatics, Computing and Cyber Systems, where these two programs are. That school has certainly grown. It's one of the fastest growing schools here at Northern Arizona University. We have a lot of different faculty involved in different kinds of research, working with the National Science Foundation. And so we thought that, considering all of these opportunities that we had to offer to our students, it made sense to begin with this program and certainly look at other opportunities. But I do think that computer science certainly will play an important part. When you look at technology companies in the United States, US certainly is a major leader. And that means that once you graduate with this program, you don't have to go that too far to go to Silicon Valley or pursue some opportunity in terms of working for some of these major corporations here in the United States.
Right, Rag. Just to add on to what Mr. Singh has been mentioning, I think, let me brief the attendees that we've developed this computer science and applied computer science degree program with the Northern Arizona University, which entails that you spend the first 2 years in India, and when it's time for your specialization years, when it's time for your majors, you actually transition to campus and you embark on the applied learning process. While the first 2 years are relatively very, very, very affordable, the last 2 are actually to the tune of the actual university fee. And if you're getting about 70% of the marks on your first 2 years, on your first 4 semesters, NAU is actually offering you $10,000 of scholarship every year. So you're actually entitled to 20,000 USD in the last 2 years if you were doing great on your academic record in the first 2 years. So we've got a 2+2 setup. We've also, made sure that you get financial aid further to what you're already doing. So an entire degree that costs upward of 1 crore or similar has been brought down to almost 30 to 35 lakhs, depending on your living expenses. So Rag, how do you sort of, look at the employability of an Indian student who's just finished a bachelor's of computer science, and if he or she is not really keen on doing a master's right after, does the employability get affected? And what is the average salary of NAU graduates in computer science and applied computer science?
Absolutely. And those are really good questions, Praneeth. So thank you for asking that. Once again, when we look at the STEM fields, I think there's immense opportunities when we're looking at the data coming from the US government. I think this is one area which sees immense opportunities. At the end of the day, you're looking at computer science specialists being hired in different areas, not just in information technology companies, but even in other companies. Now you have many companies investing in self-driving cars, certainly even higher education institutions focusing a lot more on learning technologies when it comes to online aspects. So I think technology has become essentially a very important part of our lives. not just within the information technology sector, but essentially in every area. Here at NAU, one thing that we help our students to get prepared for those job opportunities is through experiential learning. So as an engineering student in your last year, which of course would also be your second year here at NAU, since you'd be doing the first 2 years in India through our colleagues at upGrad. So when you come down to here at NAU, you will be involved in a capstone program. It's called Design for You. And as part of this capstone program, you essentially work with a team, with a group of students in a sort of project manning environment where you go on to build a particular project to the needs of industry. So for example, let's say if you're working with an executive from Google or Amazon, you'll be basically building a project, a particular area of interest that they are looking to develop within their organization. And at the end of that year, you get to actually present your project along with your colleagues in that group to that executive. And that's where we have seen in the past a lot of our students gaining internships, full-time internship opportunities, as well as full-time job opportunities. But the biggest thing it sort of helps them gain is that experiential learning opportunity of building, developing something rather than just writing papers or passing examinations. And I think these are the experiential learning opportunities that has helped our students. We have an exciting career services team here at Northern Arizona University, not just at the centralized level, but also within different colleges. So for example, within the College of Engineering, we have a career services office. Within the business school, we have a career services office. And these tend to sort of organize career fairs, internship opportunities for our students to help them get connected directly to the industry. We understand that our students are looking for internships, experiential learning, and that's why we're making sure that we have team members here at our university who are constantly working hard to build those industry connections and certainly get our students those opportunities in terms of internships and their first jobs also. I would say for an international student who is coming to study STEM, even at an undergraduate level, the opportunities are immense. And I think in the past, we have seen students, number of our students graduate and go on to get jobs, which might be anywhere starting from $50,000 US dollars package to even much higher, depending on your background, your experience, if you've pursued any internships in the past and so on. So definitely, I would say the opportunities are immense. And in fact, I would say even the folks from the industry tend to be much more open-minded when it comes to hiring STEM students, partly because immediately as they graduate, because of the STEM extension, they have the opportunity to pursue work here in the United States for up to 3 years without having to worry about an H-1B visa or any of those challenges. So even for folks from the industry, it's much easier to hire someone who they know for sure can be here for the next 3 years. And that certainly sets up a good first step opportunity for our students to build that connection, build that experience, and prove to those industry specialists that they are someone that they should get hired even in a perhaps in a full-time role to get sponsored into an H-1B as well. So I do think there's a lot of opportunities within the STEM field. We've seen some great interest from our employers to even hire international students coming from computer science or many of the other engineering backgrounds as well. And that's why I do see that we do get a lot of international students coming to the United States, particularly in the areas of STEM specifically, I would say.
Great. I think just to highlight to all of our attendees here, I think the basic minimum salary that you have mentioned, about $500,000 of USD to begin with every year. I think when we were calculating the cost that they're bearing to actually study for all 4 years through UN, through our partnership, which is a 2+2, so they're spending about 4 lakhs combined for the first 2 years, and if they do attain the scholarship after a 70% marks achievement, they're largely completing the degree in 35 lakhs, which is largely what they're also earning. So there's 100% ROI in the first year itself. And plus, you mentioned conversely to the 1 year visa extension for work, they're getting a 3-year work visa for STEM, which is all the way better for them to embark on a more fortified and strengthened career in the future. And you mentioned after 3 years, they can also extend for the masters which gives them additional 3 years. With that being said, Rag, I want to sort of jump into a few questions that are being asked by the audience right now, but also I think I'd want to come back to you with some of my own questions as well. So I'm just trying to filter. So Rag, if there are students who've done bachelors of business or bachelor of commerce or any of these, how much sense does it make for them to sort of pursue an MBA versus a master's in their own field in which they've specialized in during the bachelor's? What according to you makes them more employable or amplifies the human capital a lot more?
So I would say for the MBA program, once again, our MBA program sort of has this unique perspective. We offer a couple of majors. We're looking at adding to, more specializations. Again, applied management is one of them. And one key perspective, once again, about the MBA tends to be sort of that close connection with the industry. We get a lot of our alumni who come to campus. We have a lot of industry connections, including not just in the United States, but even abroad. And in fact, traveling abroad is one of the requirements for the MBA program here at Northern Arizona University. So I do think, once again, what we're looking at through an MBA program with someone who's coming from, let's say, a Bachelor in Business Administration or a Bachelor's in Commerce in India is getting that sort of applied learning perspective. I think an MBA is a unique opportunity for you to be ready, not just to be working in some kind of a management or consultancy, but also perhaps working in any kind of leadership opportunity in the United States when it comes to many of these industry options. And once again, the applied learning perspective, the opportunity to build those connections with the industry, constantly be in touch with our alumni. These are options that I would say MBA programs in the United States tend to offer. And once again, help you get prepared industry, future-proof with those connections within the industry as well.
Got that. I think I'd largely take this moment for the audience to know that now upGrad helps you secure any direct admission to any university in the US. And we actually offer and extend end-to-end servicing of any other additional support that you require during making your applications to any university in the US. And of course, we do a hybrid degree setup also, if in case you want to save some money and also spend some time in India trying to deeply immerse yourself in the academic rigor of the US education system, as well as do a few internships here in India prior to you moving to the US. And like Rag mentioned, you've got internships in the US. Your applied learning begins the moment you step onto the campus. You've got internships, you've got a capstone, and you've got more and more services from their end to get placed. So Rag, I now want to jump to Mr. Sani and just ask him, how much does it cost, Mr. Sani, to actually study in the US? As in, if we're not going through the hybrid route, what is the actual cost? And we want to break a few stereotypes here, as in the US is always perceived as the most costliest in the world. So how much would an MBA cost? How much would an MSc cost? How much would a bachelor's cost?
Thank you, Preen. The great question, and cost is always one of the major factors when deciding upon studying abroad or for future education for every aspirant. The good news is that, okay, let's talk about our university. The graduate program costs about $27,000 a year, roughly 20 lakhs, if you can calculate on the higher side. But with fundings that are available, let's say we give a $10,000 scholarship to the student, that takes off 7.5 lakh rupees. So it costs about 12.5, 13 lakh rupees a year, multiplied by 2. So the costing comes to about 25 lakh rupees. Add to that the cost of living. You can easily complete your degree in 30, 35 lakh rupees. Now, these are figures which students are already paying in institutes in India, and ISB is as expensive. Even the IIMs have suddenly become very, very expensive. And these institutes have very, very low acceptance rates. Whereas in the US, due to the large number of universities available, you get better opportunities, better chances of getting through, even though you might not be in the top 0.01%, you will still not be looked down upon, or maybe you have options to choose amongst the 4,000 universities. So yes, 25, 30 lakh rupees is its cost. In fact, US will, if you compare it to the other countries, with the pounds and the US, New Zealand dollars and Australian dollars also becoming very expensive, you might be surprised to see that US is one of the most affordable options, often the cheapest options amongst all of these countries, assuming you compare similarly ranked universities, not the top with the bottom ones. So it's one of the most affordable options. I would suggest everyone to go out and look out for the fee structures. You will be pleasantly surprised.
Right, Mr. Sani. We have a question here. Can a non-engineering background student actually apply to the MSc program of bioinformatics?
We've had students from medicine applying for bioinformatics, but for someone who's looking, so I also saw another question. I'll answer two questions at once. Can a non-computer science student switch their streams to a computer science, as in an electrical engineer, which they do all the time, or an electronics engineer? And now often the mechanical engineers have also started. So yes, that is very much possible. But what happens is there are a couple of subjects which are required as prerequisites to complete a degree. Those are added to your program alongside the regular subjects. So subjects like maybe algorithms or data structures are added to your program. Often they are part of the electrical engineering curriculum in India already. So if you have already studied it, you don't need to get it added to the course. But otherwise, maybe a mechanical engineer, there's a mechanical engineer in question here. So yes, you can definitely get admitted. So it will not be a conditional admit, it will be an unconditional admit. The only thing will be that you'll be studying the prerequisite subjects in your first or second semesters and taking the other subjects in your third or fourth semesters. So the balance will be such that the degree will still be completed within 2 years, and you come out as an engineer in a computer science field. Coming to the second question, can a non-person switch to, you were talking about bioinformatics. So I was talking, yes, we have had students coming from other streams. It might be a good idea to get some background in these areas. You can do many of these courses within India. So a course in algorithms or in data structures. Perhaps upGrad offers some of them online. So you can get these as prereqs, get the knowledge in, and then come to the university much better prepared. Would you like to add something to that, Rob?
Yeah, and just to sort of say that, again, if you're an undergraduate student, let's say if you're coming from a science stream or a commerce stream or an art stream, again, sometimes what we see is that within the Indian higher education system, there's sort of limitations in terms of the kind of education stream that you may have chosen and what you want to pursue going ahead. So it's a little bit easier at the undergraduate level, just because, again, you're just getting into those specialized, those core subjects. Now, once, of course, you start looking at the master's level, if you're an engineering student, it's much easier in that respect. Switching between different sort of areas, mechanical, electrical, moving to CS by adding some other courses. If you're coming from a non-engineering field and then sort of moving into one of those engineering areas, it might be a little bit more challenging at the master's level as compared to the undergraduate level. And partly this is because, again, the master's level in the United States is considered very much a specialized degree. The expectation of the faculty is that you have the basic background. And so now we'll start looking into those specialized areas of interest, cloud computing, cybersecurity, different areas of special interest there. So again, depending on which particular, levels that you're looking at, it might be a little bit more easier or challenging and so on.
So according to you, so what can generally help the transition is that if they have enrolled or participated or pursued certain microcredit programs or MOOCs or open certificate courses in the field that they largely want to foray into. Do you think that will help? Because upgrad.com generally, with all these technology and business courses, does have a lot of does have Duke University, we've got Michigan, we've got your university, Um, we've got UA who's been offering all certificate programs. Do you think those help when you're trying to bridge the gap between where you're coming from as a bachelor and when you're going to a specialized study which is not related?
Absolutely. I would say that, putting something down in your statement of purpose is definitely of great value because, again, beyond the academic part, our faculty, our departments certainly look into the experiential background of our students, even looking at, what kind of academics did they pursue while they were in India. Perhaps they looked into some certifications. There's a lot of options, certainly with our colleagues at upGrad, but a number of different online platforms as well. And I think that certainly gives our faculty a holistic picture of the student's background, in some cases, not just from an academic background, but also from an experiential learning perspective. Having worked in the field for a number of years certainly helps them understand the expectations of the academic program a little bit better, even if they may have switched some streams. They may have come from a mechanical or electrical background, but may have worked now in the information technology sector. And that certainly helps them get prepared much better in some ways for some of those classes that we would be offering in our computer science program and so on.
Got that. And I also want to share with all the attendees as the reason why pioneer universities like NAU and the other universities we've got in Germany, Canada, in Australia, why we developed these 1+3 or 2+2 or 1+2 programs was largely because we wanted that in order for in order for UG aspirants and those who were aiming at PG, they could have enough window in India while they're pursuing the semester 1, 2, 3 up until semester 4. They have enough practical experiences. They get internship through us. They get different meaningful engagements in the field. So they're largely, even if they're transitioning different fields, they're not just sort of waiting towards the last year of the course on campus, but also spending the first 2 years understanding, that they have got a good academic immersion plus the experiential part of it. So Rag, just wanted to share that, as in, even when we're doing the computer science course with NAU, we're allowing all these students while they're in India to take up more and more activities, engagements, to take up any short-term internships that they possibly can get their hands on, so that even if they're transitioning from an unrelated field, if they're going from arts to from arts or commerce to the BSc, they are way more equipped to champion that field. And also, Rag, I just want to sort of want you to talk about how our BCA plus BSc program at NAU does not actually only cater to science students from grade 12, but almost everybody. How accessible have you made in terms of who can get into it?
Absolutely. And I think, Praneet, you make a really good point. A lot of times within the Indian education system, or sometimes even other education systems, the particular academic streams that a student may pursue at the high school level may limit them to higher education options that they can pursue once they complete that particular high school in, let's say, in the science or the medicine or the commerce and arts. For NAU and for in general, I would say for the United States higher education system, flexibility is certainly an opportunity for our students to grow and choose areas of interest for them. So you may have pursued, let's say, a commerce background or an arts background, but eventually, as you're going through that evolution, you're developing more interests within computer science, information technology. You may have picked up some courses in an online platform. And certainly for us, we're not limiting our particular program just to students who are coming from the science stream. In fact, students from all different streams who have interest to learn computer science are welcome to be a part of this program. And I think, once again, the 2+2 transition from upGrad really helps, because our friends at upGrad make sure that you have the right background, also helping them with experiential learning opportunities. I think that certainly helps them set up for the expectations when they come here to NAU also. One more thing to add is, I know it's slightly outside of the academic perspective, but I think it's really important. Something that we have seen greatly as a success has been the fact that a lot of our students, who pursue these academic programs in an online format, or certainly in a 2+2 format, we've had a number of our academic programs set up similarly in China. And we've seen that students who pursue those first 2 years, and then of course certainly go on for their visa interview before they're coming here to the United States, actually have 100% success rate. And part of that is some of the questions that visa officers often ask is, why did you choose this program? What kind of courses are you going to be taking when you go to your campus? What kind of specialization are you going to be pursuing? Again, being able to do 2 years of that education in their home country, working through NAU, working through our partners, they have a much more understanding and clarity in terms of their future plans. And again, this is something that the visa officers certainly want to see and again, understand, what exactly is your intention to go to the United States. And when you already have a plan in order, a plan that you've been working for the last 2 years, at institutions at NAU, you're able to sort of emphasize that. You're able to share the kind of courses that you've been doing and the courses that you will be planning to do once you get here to campus. And that certainly has given our students, coming into these 2+2 programs from different parts of the world, China, Vietnam, and now certainly India, that sort of surety in terms of the visa opportunity as well.
I think I'd jump to Mr. Sani. There are a lot of students here asking about the marks that you need in order to get into some of the good universities in the US, including yours. So can you share a little bit about the sort of marks they should be planning to get for bachelor's and master's both, Mr. Sani?
Sure. So the US follows a 4-point grade scale. We follow the Indian percentage scale. So roughly, although each university has a different scale, but we look at a grade point average of about 3.0, roughly a 70% or higher in your standard 10th and 12th average, or roundabout in your graduation. Again, this is a wider area. So it has a range, maybe a 65 to 70 will also often come into it, depending on how your grade scales were. So we have particular converters for that. But yes, I also saw those questions. It doesn't have to be 95% always. This is the flexibility that everyone has to get equal opportunities. Equal opportunity is something which all universities really focus on. So I also saw a question about someone having dyslexia. So any challenge you might be facing, we have departments to specially help you tackle those challenges. It will not be an issue. Just to give you an example, even for the access, every building has a provisions for wheelchairs, and even for opening the doors, there are particular buttons. So if someone can't get up and push the thing, there'll be options to automatically open the doors, easing the access inside out. So these are no problems, and definitely equal opportunities are available for everyone, irrespective of your scores. But a 3.0 or higher is definitely a good score to have.
Right, Mr. Sani. And thanks for making sure that we are very firm on the point that the university in the US are very accessible and are very inclusive in terms of their culture for anybody who may be differently abled. So we have a question. Can I take Duolingo instead of IELTS if I'm applying for bachelor's?
So Duolingo, although again, it depends on university to university, we have started accepting the Duolingo exam. The good part about a Duolingo exam is that you can give it from your home and you get results early on. So as people were locked into the pandemic, Duolingo suddenly became very, very popular. So we look at a range of 90 or higher for the undergraduate admissions, or 105 or higher for your graduate admissions. So Duolingo, IELTS, TOEFL are all acceptable.
Got that. And also, we've got somebody who says, which are some of the foundational programs in science in US universities that they can sort of begin with if they don't have too much interest but want to explore the field and want to sort of enter into science?
So, Praneeth, this is the beauty of the US education. At the undergrad level, you can choose not to declare your major for the first 2 years. It's a 120 credit program. So you will be given an advisor who will give you a basic line to get into, let's say, engineering or business or arts. And then you can explore, you can try subjects and see which one you like better than the others, or drop out of those which ones you are not really good at or you're not enjoying, and then declare your majors. So you will have people to guide you for this. You can choose a broader stream, maybe business or engineering or arts, get into the program, and then the advisors and counselors will be there to guide you through the process.
Mr. Sani, could you also sort of throw some light on what are the different subject combinations or the course combinations that the US allows uniquely?
Very broadly put, Praneeth, undergrad degree is about 120 credits, out of which about 60 to 65 credits are in your core area. Core as in, if you choose a business, they will be in the business area. Thereafter, the degree is very, very flexible. Some universities also allow you to do dual majors, but business and business and engineering is one combination. There is business and math people do. There is engineering and math. But then there are also people who would study a math and a geography together, which would, I think, is still not possible to study in India. So it is all about your choices. It is not about the university's choice. You can more or less pick and choose.
And in every semester, how much of the academic content is democratized, as in how much can I still choose on my own, which may not be related to the exact core studies, as in you've mentioned broadly, but in every semester, what is the ratio that we're looking at?
Sure. And if I may add, Praneeth, so essentially one of the really cool systems, if I may say, is here in the United States is that, you get an academic advisor. And so depending on if you're studying business, engineering, you get to meet with an academic advisor who's not exactly a faculty, but more of a staff member. And you get to talk with them about the class opportunities you can take pretty much every semester. So depending on certainly what the offering is, depending on what you may require from your academic degree to graduate within a framework of, let's say, 2 years, once you come down to NAU, you may be looking at different courses. Sometimes these courses may be part of your major, minor. Sometimes these courses might be just an elective, something of personal interest, perhaps, that you might want to go on and study a course in literature, music, and so on. So again, being able to get to meet with a professional staff and talk about certainly what you require for your degree, but what are some of the other options in terms of electives courses that you could pick that are of personal interest, perhaps, that you would like to take is certainly a good option. And I think the way that, as Pranav was explaining, US academic degree is structured, it allows the option of flexibility, being able to take these courses which may not exactly be related to your major, but perhaps for personal interest, perhaps for an opportunity of finding those connections in terms of interdisciplinary knowledge building. There are definitely these options that students can take, and it certainly gives them an opportunity to think outside the box when they have that knowledge per se also.
Got that. I think that is one very interesting thing. I think, like you rightly mentioned, it's very cool because you're not only specializing in some field, but also I think it is largely reaffirming that you've got the complete liberty to educate yourself and sort of own that entire pursuit of learning for yourself, and whatever it is that you want to upskill yourself and to educate yourself. I think largely sort of makes you feel that it's in your control and you own your own education journey. Very interesting. So Rag, somebody has asked, please explain your fee structure. So I'll cover what it means to study with NAU through upGrad. So it's 2.5 lakhs for first year, which includes your IELTS and which includes your study abroad module, so that we cover academic writing, academic integrity, academic referencing, research methodology, and sort of help you navigate academic and sort of your own vocational aspect of your life as well. When you enter into the US, you should feel like you're out of the place and you're not really equipped at the same level as somebody who's been studying there for the first year. So it's from the very first year. So we're going to be giving you all the academic, zero credit courses, but also the IELTS training. So that's 2.5 lakhs the first year, including the academic curriculum from which is articulated to NAU. The second year is 1.5 lakhs. The third and fourth are 17,000 USD after your scholarship if you're scoring 70% in the first 2 years. If not, then it's 27,000 USD. So Rag, can you brief on what the normal bachelor structure for NAU is if they're studying, from the very first year, and also any university of your stature, how much are they likely to charge?
Absolutely. And I think this is an important question. So while we were developing this program with our colleagues at upGrad, again, understanding the needs of the market is essential. We understand that students coming from South Asia are interested in the experiential learning opportunity. And that's where we were looking at STEM-based programs. We were looking at a program which had future-proof job opportunities and certainly good working packages as students graduate and go on to the industry. And that's why we chose computer science. But again, coming back to the cost factor, we understand, we're still going through a pandemic. A lot of our world has changed in many ways. There's been some financial challenges also. And so again, keeping that cost factor in mind, I think this collaboration was unique and important because it certainly gives you the opportunity to get started in India. And again, making sure that the courses that you're taking through our partners at upGrad with Chandigarh University are basically being transferred here at NAU. Keep this in mind. Let's say if you go to a different university in the United States, or for that matter, to a different part of the world, and if you then decide to come to NAU in your third year, those courses are extremely hard to get transferred. In this setup, what we have done is made sure that through the articulation process, our faculty took a look at these courses. They took a look at the syllabi, the curriculum, what exactly is being taught, and they approved and made sure that those courses were exactly equivalent to the courses that they were taking here at NAU. And so it guarantees you, once you enroll into this program, that all the courses that we have promised, we are accepting, because this is the whole point of view of a 2+2 articulation. Now, the cost is something that, again, you have to keep in consideration. As you know, when it comes to India, a lot of our students in India often, look at graduate programs. But this 2+2, we have sort of created an opportunity for you to, get started in India, not having to spend, thousands of US dollars in those first 2 years, but only come to the United States in your third and fourth year, still get that experiential learning opportunity. So for example, if you were to start here at NAU in your first year itself, if you were directly coming down to the university, you're looking at an annual cost of attendance without a scholarship of any kind of 40,000 plus US dollars, because you're looking at tuition, you're looking at the cost of living, you're looking at your health insurance, all of those things added. And so when you look at 4 years, that certainly becomes a substantial amount of money to spend for an undergraduate education. And that's where, again, understanding the needs of the market, we collaborated with a partner which is well known in terms of its online learning. And again, being able to provide the same kind of education that you would receive here in the United States for those 2 years was essential to us, keeping the costs down also, but at the same time providing the same opportunities of a 3-year STEM program and same experiential learning opportunities here when you come down for your third and fourth year.
Right, but thanks for sort of reassuring the attendees on, our mission and what we're trying to aim to do. So somebody here asked that what are some of the best extracurricular activities to build a strong profile for UG admissions if they want to get into the US universities. And I'm also going to sort of cap this here. And this is probably the last question. Don't want to take time more than what you had committed. So, what are some of these activities that you recommend if they want to get into some of the best universities?
For sure. So certainly, obviously academics is important, as we all are very familiar with that. But outside of that, I highly encourage our students to get involved in any kind of leadership role. Perhaps this is, volunteering for a local community organization, or perhaps taking some kind of a leadership role in their school. Again, this is something that our faculty, our admissions department greatly values and highlights. And once we are looking through those admission essays, those statement of purposes, having certainly that kind of leadership, the extracurricular perspective is important to understand. So again, any kind of internship, any experiential learning opportunity that you may have, sometimes it may be in your field, sometimes it may be in a different field, but again, highlighting the fact that you are willing to go that extra mile to sort of learn something, to engage in your community, to perhaps take on a leadership role in your school, certainly plays a positive perspective to our admissions team, to our faculty, and highlighting that in your admissions essay would certainly be the way to go. And I would certainly encourage that kind of involvement while you're going through your high school, through your board examinations and so on.
Right, Rag. Also, we just had this one student who was asking if BCA is doable. Yes, in fact, the 2+2 program that we're doing with NAU begins with the first 2 years of a BCA program, and then you transition to BSc at NAU. So the BCA track is actually articulated to numerous engineering degrees in Australia, as well as the applied computer science and computer science program with NAU. In fact, the biggest advantage of NAU has been able to sort of add is largely that while Australia gives you 2 years of work visa, the US gives you 3 years of work visa for a STEM degree, and then you can further extend it by master's. So it's the BCA track that you eventually sort of have to pursue in order to get into NAU's BSc or BA, that Bachelor of Applied Computer Science, BACS, right? So Rag, with that, I think I'll put this to an end. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to host Mr. Sani and yourself. And I recommend all students, I've put down my email address and one of my colleagues. And if you've got any questions for Rag or Mr. Sani, we've been largely unable to answer them. I'd love if you could write to us, and I'll make sure that I pass it on to Rag and his team. Also, Rag, we have one final question. Can we get scholarships for UG if we've got prior experience as a computer science fanatic, probably?
Absolutely. Again, the partnership that we have with our colleagues here, again, if you're able to get those credentials, which we're looking in from a US terms around that 3.0 GPA, you'll be guaranteed the $10,000 per year scholarship. And that's certainly something that, looking at your background, looking at your experiential learning opportunity, we would be able to offer. The CSS profile, I think that was mentioned, is again something that a lot of private universities look at. For public universities at NAU would be mostly looking at, of course, if you're coming through this 2+2 program, and if you have the credentials, we'll guarantee you the International Excellence Award. So slightly different when private or public universities are looking at scholarships. And of course, our scholarship is a merit-based scholarship. So it would be based upon your academics with this 2-year program and so on.
Right, Rag. I hope the question has been largely answered. And I think for everybody else who's here, we'd love for you to write to us directly. Rag, we've got GRE is mandatory to apply for scholarships for masters. Is it?
So GRE may be required for some academic programs. I will say that last couple of semesters, including the spring 2022 semester, we were able to waive off the GRE for majority of our engineering programs, including our computer science programs. So some academic programs may require a GRE at the master's level. So it's primarily a graduate record examination. But again, with the pandemic, a lot of our departments have been quite flexible, and have waived away the GRE requirement. In terms of scholarship, that's not something that we assess for scholarship requirements. For scholarships, it's primarily based on your undergraduate academic performance, since these are merit-based scholarships. But sometimes for the admission process, certain master's programs may require the GRE. But once again, our programs, our departments have been quite flexible over the last few semesters in terms of waiving off the GRE for the admission requirement.
Right, Rag. Thank you so much for the comprehensive answer. How similar it is? I'm so sorry, and I'm bombarding you with the last minute queries.
No, these are good questions. Absolutely. Go ahead.
We've got one that how similar is 2+2 with a 4-year degree. I think largely, like Rag mentioned, you get so many additional benefits when you're doing a 2+2, and you're able to convince the visa officer as well as in your intent, your interest, your experience, both applied and academic, with the reason of why you want to transition to the US. But also, Rag, can you highlight if there's any larger academic or non-academic differences that you foresee in a 2+2 or a 4+4 degree, if there are any?
Yeah, no, I think one of the good things about this program, and again, communicating with our partners at upGrad, is the experiential learning opportunities. The fact that upGrad is not only providing you an education through this wonderful platform, they are helping you find those experiential learning opportunities. And that means that by the time that you come down to NAU, not only you may have those 2 years of education, but you also have perhaps some kind of internship or experiential learning aspect that you now can add that to your resume. So once you come here and you start looking perhaps for those part-time job opportunities, working with a faculty member, perhaps as an undergraduate researcher, or working as a grader to your faculty, helping them, assisting with grading, any kind of those experiential learning opportunities on your resume certainly plays well and will help you find those part-time job opportunities that you as an international student can pursue 20 hours per week here on our campus. So I do think what upGrad is providing is not just the education perspective through a wonderful platform, but also those experiential learning opportunities that adds a lot of great value even while you're in India, to be prepared for those 2 years once you come down here to NAU.
So by and large, there is no difference between a 2+2, 4. Rather, you will be more immersed and well involved in the academic rigor, and probably do a lot better in terms of the last 2 years, get some hands-on experiences, get your capstones, but also I think you'll be experienced in your field a lot more in a diversified way, including the Indian job market as well as the US job market. I think, like Rag mentioned, you're going to be looked at, as more exposed, more experientially developed than any other regular child. And I think at upGrad, as much as affordability we're trying to bring to almost, rather than 40 lakhs, trying to cut it down to 4 lakhs for both years combined. As much as we're trying to do, on the cost factor, we're also trying to make sure that we bridge any non-academic gap there may be, including, your 0 credit courses of academic skills, which are largely your survival skills for US universities, but also, connecting you to internships, helping you keep a good work-life balance. And Rag, you will be surprised to know we've also now, sort of allowed learners to get to the CU campus to pursue the first 2 years. So we also allow them, if they want to go to the Indian University Partners campus, they can study there for the first 2 years. So they have a larger social involvement with the peer groups as well. So we've largely realized through the pandemic that was one component that largely suffered with online learning. So you also try to fill that gap. And now, not only can they academically evolve, but also fill any social gap and develop themselves a lot better in that classroom environment, and sort of discuss almost any assignment that is being given to them with the peer groups in a lot more engaging way. So like Rag mentioned, I think there is no difference, 1, and 2, if there's anything different, it's probably that we're trying to do a lot more while you're still in India and you have that comfort still trying to settle into that routine. So with that said, Mr. Singh and Mr. Sani, I'd like to thank both of you. I think it's been an absolute pleasure and honor for upGrad team to be hosting. I think largely we were asked about 86 questions, and that has never happened in the past. The most we've ever gotten is 60. So extremely thrilled, and I'm very happy, and I'm sure we will have some more flowing in, and as soon as we do, we pass them on to you. I think if you both have any parting, I mean, I wouldn't say, a parting word, but any message that you would want to give to the students.
I think, having come to the United States as an international student and, constantly being in touch here with our students, we have a very organized and I would say well celebrated, the Indian Association of Northern Arizona. It's exciting to see the journey of our students, in this case, getting started here with our colleagues at upGrad and then coming down to NAU and being able to continue that journey. And, again, being in those shoes of having been an international student myself, I understand the curiosity, the challenges, the excitement that our students are going through. And this is where, I think both Pranav and I sort of worked well. Pranav, of course, being in India, is able to communicate with our prospective students and parents at those Indian time zones, while students, once they come to our campus, we're able to make sure that right from picking them up from the airport to the time to help them getting settled in, we understand the challenges that our international students go through. Having been one, having come to the United States as an international student, we make sure to certainly help our students in every step of the way through our wonderful partners in India, and make sure that while they come to the United States, they certainly succeed and go on to pursue their dreams as well. So again, lots of good opportunities, lots of good advice directly coming from the institutions that you want to pursue. And I think that's the biggest perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mr. Sani, would you want to share something with the students? We've got a few left, but I think because they're here.
I think Rag's pretty much summed it up. But in one line, I would say that we believe our success lies in your success. The more comfortable you are and the better jobs you get, that is what gets us more students, gets our name out here. So we go the extra mile to help you achieve all of that. So, and that is also one of the reasons why we chose upGrad out of the other options available, because we wanted to be with the best, and we're hoping to see a lot of you on campus here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Sani and Mr. Singh. It has been a very pleasant evening. I'd like to wish all of you good luck, and write to us if you've got any questions. I put the email addresses on the chat box. Wishing you all good luck and have a very pleasant evening ahead, right, everybody? Thank you very much, Rag and Pranav.
Great. Thank you, Praneeth. Take care.
Thank you for organizing this. Thank you.